ಹಾ ಹಾ ಓಕೆ ನನ್ನ ಹಾ ಓಕೆ 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 ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಹಲೋ ಸರ್ ಹಲೋ ಸರ್ ಹಲೋ ಸಂಜಯ್ ಸರ್ ಹಲೋ ಸರ್ ಹಾಂ ಸರ್ ಹಾಂ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಹಾಂ ಹಾಂ ಸರ್ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಯುವರ್ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല ಹಲೋ ಸರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಆಡಿಬಲ್
ಈಗ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹಲೋ
ಈಗ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್
ರೈಟ್ ರೈಟ್
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್
ಈಗ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹಲೋ
ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್
ರೈಟ್
ಯಾ ಸರ್
ಈಗ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹಲೋ
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಹಾಂ ಸರ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ
ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನ್ಯೂ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ Okay. Very good morning to all the participants in the webinar. Because we are doing some experimentation with very good morning to all the participants in the webinar. New platform. Because we are doing some experimentation with very good morning to all the participants in the webinar. New platform. Because we are doing some experimentation with new platform. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಈಗ ಹೇಗಾಯ್ತಲ್ಲ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಈಗ ಹೇಗಾಯ್ತಲ್ಲ So today, on Chikitsa Pradeepa, a webinar series by experts of Kayachikitsa, hosted by Government Ayurveda Medical College, Postgraduate Department. On Chikitsa Pradeepa, a webinar series by experts of Kayachikitsa, hosted by Government Ayurveda Medical College, Postgraduate Department. On Chikitsa Pradeepa, a webinar series under the guidance of Dr. Rajendra Sir, HOD, Department of Kayachikitsa, and constant support and motivation from our beloved Principal Gajan Hegde Sir, Principal JMC Mysore, and also active participation of staffs and students of PG Department. So, today we have a very special guest, alumni of our own department, Dr. Beena, Associate Professor, HOD, Department of Kayachikitsa, JSS Ayurveda Medical College, Mysore. Now, she will be speaking on the topic management of cancer in Ayurveda. She has abundant of experience in cancer because her post-graduation topic was on this particular topic only. So, so we are looking forward to learn from her with her valuable experiences. So before we start our session, we'll have a brief introduction about the author. Learn from her with her Dr. Shreya. So before we start our session, we'll introduce our guest to all the participants on the webinar. Thank you. Dr. Shreya. So before we start our session, we'll introduce our guest to all the participants on the webinar. Thank you. ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ you can't do that. Introduce our guest to ಶೇರ್ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಾ ಶೇರ್ can you do it? ಶೇರ್ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಮಾಡಿ ಶೇರ್ can you do it?
Who is going to talk to us about the management of cancer in Ayurveda. Dr. Beena ma'am is well known for her valuable contribution and services in the field of Ayurveda. She was born in February 9 in the year of 1974. Ma'am completed BMS from Alvas Ayurveda Medical College, Mudbidri in the year of 2001. She completed her post-graduation from Government Ayurveda Medical College, Mysore. Ma'am was worked as lecturer in Atreya Ayurvedic Medical College, Dodballapura from 2009 to 2011. Presently, she is working in JSS Ayurveda Medical College in the Department of Kayachikitsa as Associate Professor and HOD. Ma'am was the winner of oral presentation competition at Conclave on Cancer Care and Research, developing a roadmap at Amrita School of Ayurveda, Kochi on February 2019. Ma'am has published various journals from 2015 to 2020. They are Patya Apatya in Rutucharya with special reference to festival in International Ayurvedic Medical Journal and Prophylactic Measures Against Communicable Diseases with special reference to COVID-19 and Ayurvedic Approach in the year of 2020. In 2019, an observational study on Dinacharya modalities with special reference to Brahmi Muhurte Uttishte in improving longevity. Role of Ayurvedic formulations in preventing the complication of chemo and radiotherapy in the management of cancer, a case study with special reference to ovarian cancer in stage 4 in the year of 2018. In 2017, conceptual reviews on prevention of cardiovascular diseases in Ayurveda with special reference to Hridaya. Role of Agni in maintenance of health, a literary review in 2016. Ma'am is a resource person from 2015 and delivered many paper presentation, webinar guest lecture on role of Ayurveda in hemophilia, awareness of cancer and its management through Ayurveda on account of Women's Day, effect of Ayurvedic formulations in minimizing the side effects of chemo and radiotherapy. Ma'am has done various research projects from 2015 to 2016. They are clinical trial on ginger caplet in nausea and vomiting, effect of polyherbal preparation in arthritis, evaluation of safety and efficacy of wheat flour fortified with nutrients as functional food in obesity and type 2 diabetes mellitus. Role of Rajata Basma on vascular and neuronal mitochondrial ultrastructural characteristics, synaptic plasticity, and cognition in renovascular hypertensive. Ma'am is active member in Cancer Clinic JSS Ayurveda Hospital, Bharat Cancer Hospital, Mysuru, Preeti Cancer Center, Mysuru. With this introduction, I welcome you, ma'am, to Chikitsa Pradeepa webinar. Thank you. Ma'am, please continue the session.
Lotus feet of Shri. Hello, audible? Hello? Hello? Hello, am I audible? Hello, sir, am I audible? Hello? Hello? Hello, sir, am I audible? Sanjay, sir? Hello?
ನೀವು ಆಡಿಬಲ್ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಏನಂತ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇದೆ
ಹೌದಾ ಮಾತಾಡ್
ಯು ಆರ್ ಆಡಿಬಲ್ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ ಯು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮೇಡಮ್
ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ
ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ
ಯಾ ಓಕೆ at the outset I would like to thank Principal JMC Mysuru and my guru Dr. Gajana Hegde sir and other gurus Rajendra sir, Maitreyi madam and also Sanjay sir for giving me this wonderful opportunity for sharing my views and my clinical experience in this particular topic. And I'm proud to be the alumni of the same college. And I also I remember my guru Dr. Aruna madam, also my guide, who was the guiding force for me to do my work in the topic cancer. And now also I'm continuing with it, and in our college also. And now I'm going to share the screen of my presentation. Hello? Shall I start? Sir, start madla?
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತದೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿ
Okay, okay, sir.
ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇ ವಾಪಸ್
Okay, okay, sir. Yes. Okay. So coming to the presentation, the topic management of cancer through Ayurveda. So when we listen to the word cancer, it is entirely different from other diseases. Always it is heard in a different manner, it is viewed in a different manner from each and every individual in the world. So why this is? because there are too many other disorders which are more dangerous, more threatful than cancer, but still cancer is heard in a different manner. So, what may be the reason behind it? Maybe because cancer, the name kills, it spares no one, the money and the modern medicine has no answer. From the diagnosis to the death, it is a misery for the patient and family. Of course, the name itself is like that. So it has been created like that. And one more thing, in the advanced stage, of course, as in the modern medicine also, there is no cure for this particular disease. The sufferings of the patient and their family members also is very, very difficult. Maybe because of that, it has become such a threatful disease to everybody. And also, if it is diagnosed even in the early stage also, it is very difficult to no, it will be a burden to the family members in the form of economy. So that also may be another reason for this disease to be more threatful among the other diseases. And as I told, cancer is a dreadful disease which afflicts all communities worldwide. And at the beginning of the century, if you see, it was the sixth cause of death in industrialized areas, but now this is the second leading cause of death. And the reason behind this increase in the number of cancer patients may be because of the longer life expectancy and more accurate diagnosis, and also the other predisposing factors like cigarette smoking, especially among the males. And each year, if we see the statistics globally, 12.7 million people are diagnosed with cancer, and more than 50%, that is more 9.8 million, die from the disease as per the latest estimates. And if you coming to the India, it is approximately 2 to 2.5 million cases of cancers at any given point of time, with around 70,000 new cases being detected each year, and nearly half of these cases die each year. So this shows the severity or the intensity of the disease or the graveness of the disease. But still there is a hope to prevent and control it. If it is in the early stages, definitely modern will have a very good answer for it. And if it is in the advanced stage, we from the Ayurvedic fraternity can do a very good service for such a sufferings of the people. And coming to the definition of the cancer, so here I would like to explain you regarding fundamentals of cancer, as well as what we can correlate with in our terminologies like the cancer or gulma, etc. And what are the other diseases we can take into account, and also what is the treatment modalities of modern as well as Ayurveda. So how we can combinedly or in a holistic approach, how we can manage this particular disease. So coming to the definition of the cancer, it is defined as a mass of tissue formed as a result of abnormal, excessive, uncoordinated, autonomous, and purposeless proliferation of the cells. If you see the definition, everything here is abnormal and excessive, it is, isn't it? So, abnormal, excessive, uncoordinated, autonomous, and purposeless proliferation of the cells. And exactly, there are few terminologies you should understand here to understand completely the cancer. The neoplasia literally means new growth, and this particular new growth is the neoplasm. And we always know that is oncology, or study of oncology means what? That is the study of tumors or the neoplasms. And here oncos means the tumor. So the cancer here, the term, it is the common term for all malignant tumors. So cancer means it is the that means a particular tumor, when we call it as cancer, that is the that means it has it's a spread. 1 minute. ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ?
ನೀವು ನಮ್ಗೊಂದು PPT ಕಳಿಸ್ಬಿಡಿ ಸರ್, ಒಂದು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಮೇಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಮೇಡಮ್ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು
ಕಾಣ್ತಿಲ್ವಾ?
ಈಗ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ
ಕಳಿಸಿರಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ
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 ಓಕೆ ಆಯ್ತು. ಹೌದಾ?
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸಾರಿ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬೆನ್ಸ್. And if you see neoplasia, that means a new growth, and this new growth is called as neoplasm. And oncology is the study of the tumors of the neoplasm. And oncos means here tumor. Whenever we tell a tumor or a cancer means the cancer is having the specific capacity to spread from one part of the body to the other part of the body. Hence, it is called as malignant. That means all the malignant tumors are called as the cancer. So we will not. That's why there is a two divisions. We call it as that is a benign and malignant. So when we tell cancer, that means it is a malignant cancer. Malignant tumor. So it's probably the word from the word Latin, the crab has been evolved. The name cancer has been presumably understood because of its adherence to the part of that it seizes upon and obstinate manner like the crab. So that means the crab once it encroaches the whole part which it is attached to it, hence the name cancer because of the nature of the disease. And it may be benign when they are slow growing and localized without causing much difficulty to the host, and it is called as malignant when they proliferate rapidly, spread throughout the body, and may eventually cause death of the host. And if you see the different terminologies where we can correlate with modern is like Arbuda or Gulma, etc. So coming to the paribhasha of Arbuda, if you see the paribhasha or the definition of Arbuda, so it has been understood that Arbuda is an enormously growing mass, encroaching and destroying the normal structures and functional status of an organ, and in a long run, it spreads to the other parts of the body. Madhavanidhana, he tells that Duranu Pravishtam. That means it can have the capacity to uh, move all over the body, affecting the entire human systems. Hence, the quotation goes like this. Gatra Pradeshe Kwachideva Doshaha Samurjita Mamsam Abhipradoshya Vrattam Stiram Mandarujam Mahanta Manalpa Moolam Chiravriddhi Apakam Kuruvanti Mamsopachayam Tu Shofam Tamarbudam Shastra Vido Vadanti. That means here Gatra Pradeshe Kwachideva Doshaha. So many learned people has been understood it as when the Arbuda which happens in the exterior of the body. That's why it is known as that is Gatra Pradeshe Doshaha. And this is chira vriddhi apakam. There is another word. So chira, that means a chronic in nature. That means there is a continuous accumulation of vitiated doshas, which is over the mamsa as well. According to Madhavanidhana, he tells mamsa masruk pradoshya. So in the mamsa as well as asruk, which will be leading to the formation of a swelling, which is vrattam, stiram, mandarujam, mahantam. It's widespread. Analpa moolam, that means it is deep rooted, and chiravriddhi apakam, which is a non-suppurative swelling. Kuruvanti mamsopachayam to shofam. Such a swelling is called as the arbuda. So when we see the features are resembles with the nature of the cancer or the malignant condition described in modern medicine. So here in the according to Madhava Nidhana, he is telling Kuruvanti Mamsopachrayam to Atyagadam, he is telling that means it is Duranu Pravishtam, or we can even think of the metastasis here. And coming to the Nirukti also, it shows arb, himsane. That means something which gives himsa or which gives irritation to the body, which will be having the nature to develop into a tumor, or which will be having, it acts like a vairi or himsa, it is called as. And the condition which develops from a himsa or harm or injury, or it may kill the body. So such a disease is called as arbuda. And various other meanings also. It is a type of gulma or a swelling or a tumor or a serpent like demon killed by Indra. So many other uh, terminology or the meanings also we can see from the dictionary. And coming to the nidana, so arbuda, especially for the arbuda and the chapter together, it has mentioned arbuda and granthi, etc. Together they have mentioned. So even according to Charaka as well as Shushruta also, the Nidana, Samprapti, Lakshana, as well as the treatment of Granthi is similar to that of Arbuda. So if we see the specific Nidana only, there is a slight change in the Nidana of the Mamsaja Arbuda and Raktaja Arbuda. And whereas in the Samanya Nidana, it is the Mityahara Vihara, where the doshas will be getting vitiated, causing the Arbuda. But only specific nature of Nidana has been mentioned for only for Mamsaja and Raktaja Arbuda, wherein Mamsaja Arbuda, the specific Nidana mentioned is Mushti Praharadi Agata, that is the repeated injuries or constant pressure or constant trauma on the body parts. So due to this constant trauma, the muscular tissue gets vitiated and undergoes transformation and grows into a tumor. And another reason he is giving is Mamsa Parayanasya. So we know Mamsam, that means the similar properties will increase the vitiation of the same dhatus that can be taken into account here. Excessive intake of mamsa regularly will leads to the vitiation of mamsa dhatu and leads to the mamsa arbuda, which is asadhya in nature. Similarly, for raktaja arbuda, he gives the pittakara ahara vihara, which will be leading to the vitiation of pitta and in turn to the rakta, leading to the is the nidana for the raktaja arbuda. And mentioning of Arbuda in different Nidana Ardhakara Vyadis also we can see. So here the Nidana Ardhakara Vyadis all are chronic in nature. So we have to understand that the chronic disease or the accumulation of doshas since many years will be causing this particular disease. So in case of Avarana Vata, Vata Rakta, Rakta Pradoshaja Vyadhi, and in case of Doshi Visha, all these are the chronic disorders. It has been explained as a Nidanarthakara Roga, where Arbuda and Gulma as a disease has been mentioned here, where it can be taken as a malignant conditions. Coming to the causes of cancer according to the modern, so the exact etiology of the cancer is unknown, but the contributing factors are said to be chemical, physical, and biological, where tobacco, alcohol, etc., being the chemical carcinogenesis, and radiation trauma are the physical contributing factors, and the exposure to many of the viral infections, especially the HPV virus, hepatitis B or C viruses, which are the carriers, also will be causing the uh, further uh, progression of the disease like the cancer. And other things like immunodepletion or hormone changes, diet, emotion, etc. are the contributing factors for the developing into cancer. And other factors are the familial and genetic factors. Here, the risk of developing cancer in relatives of a known cancer patient is almost 3 times higher than compared to the control subject. That means if mother having a breast cancer, the daughter developing breast cancer will be almost 3 times higher than that of the other people. And other things like racial and geographic factors, especially the geographic differences affecting the whole population, such as climate, diet, water, etc. So, example, the Japanese have 5 times higher the incidence of carcinoma of the stomach than the Americans. And if you see India, either gender have higher incidence of carcinoma of the oral cavity and upper aerodigestive tract. And the environmental and cultural factors, of course, the chemical carcinogens are capable of transforming a normal cell into a malignant cell. And the smoking, so this is very, very important because everybody is exposed to this. Even though we are not smoking, of course, we may be in a public place, or those who are having other people smoking at home, they will be exposed continuously to this smoking. And why it is dangerous means the smoke contains nicotine, carcinogenic tars, and carbon monoxide. And the smoke is an irritant. Here it acts as an irritant, and carbon monoxide in the smoke also acts as a chemical irritant. And carbon dioxide in the smoke lowers the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood and causes the tissue damage. And if you see, this particular tobacco chewing causes the carcinoma of the mouth, gums, etc. And alcohol is another predisposing factor. Of course, the carcinogenic role of alcohol is not yet properly understood. Still, it may act as a chronic irritant, or it may act as a carcinogen, or a carcinogen which promotes action of other carcinogens, or it may diminish more body's own internal defenses in such a way that a cancer can easily grow. So hence, these both things together, like alcohol and tobacco, will be both together will further accentuate the risk of developing cancer. And other industrial and environmental substances like the industry's waste and other chemicals, the water, air pollution, and will act as a predisposing factor for the development of cancer. And skin contact, once again, we are all daily exposing the many of the chemicals in the form of soaps, shampoos, hair conditioners, cosmetics, lipsticks, lotions, hair dyes, deodorants, etc. And there are researchers have come up that there are number of drugs like chloramphenicol, phenytoin, arsenic, reserpine, etc. will also be a cause for developing into a cancer. And the physical carcinogens, once again, this is the most unpredictable carcinogen of all known carcinogens because it damages the DNA, causes mutation, exposure to the UV rays, etc. And also the other examples like the various radiotherapies for malignancies. That means the people undergoing radiotherapy, once again, they are into risk for developing cancer. And also the other industrial products such as television, mobile phones, watch industry, nuclear plant, cosmetic radiation, everywhere there will be continuous exposure to the radiation. So that will be a predisposing factor for developing into a cancer. And another thing is trauma or irritation. That is, a chronic trauma or an irritation predisposes to cancer. A sharp tooth, a faulty irritation, restoration in the tooth, etc. That means we have seen the previous things like that is the Mamsacha Arbuda, a chronic irritation. That means, for example, I can tell you here, a mucosal irritation in the oral cavity may be a sharp tooth. So the chronic irritation makes the cells there, the hyperplasia of the cells will happen. That may further develop into a small growth or a tumor formation. And coming to the diet, of course, diet is the very, very important factor where it can, because of the faulty diet habits, there may be cancer of the colon, liver, prostate, breast, endometrium, and ovary. And here there are two aspects we have to consider in the development of cancer by diet. That means the food making up the diet and the chemicals added to the food for various purposes, maybe to increase the taste and other things. And the types of food here, if we take more of low fiber diet, high fat diet, high cholesterol level in the bowel, also increase of protein intake, increase intake of refined carbohydrate, slow bowel transmit, all these things will leading to the predisposition of the cancer development. Why means because we always hear in the modern civilized world, even the cancer is also called as the modern civilized disease. Why it is means we always go behind everything which is refined. So we always want refined oil, refined wheat flour, everything refined. So what happens here is the fiber content is very less so that the bowel will not have a proper bowel movement and it will not move further. So the stay of the bowel in the intestine will be for longer time. This will produce in turn some of the toxins which acts as a carcinogenic. And the age, once again, it occurs nearly after the fifth decade of the life. Though there are variations in the age incidence in different other forms of cancer, but still this, but maybe it is because of the long time exposure to the various nidanas. And coming to the sex, so each sex, most of the tumors are generally more common in the men than in women, except cancer of the breast, gallbladder, thyroid, and hypopharynx. And geographic and racial variations, cancer of the breast are the commonest cancer in women, whereas the lung cancer is the commonest cancer in men. And apart from this, sometimes patient comes to us telling that I don't have any such exposure to the radiations or any such exposure to the chemicals. I'm a very simple person in my diet as well as in my regimen, but still why I got cancer? So this is really pathetic, and maybe uh, directly there is no correlation or there is no proof for psychological factors, but it is finding of anxiety and tension in cancer is a quite prevalent. So the stress and strain in life affect the immune status, which presumably ought to play a role in etiology of cancer. That is why it is very important to be a calm mind and relaxed mind is very, very important. And other important factors are exposure to the viral exposure. So there are some diseases like the leukemia, Hodgkin's disease, sarcoma, breast cancers, etc. After exposure to the certain viral infections, and even the human papilloma virus and the hepatitis B and C virus as a carrier in a long run, it will cause to the hepatocellular carcinoma here. And the hormone and cancer, it is having very good relation to develop the cancer, where it is understood that the cells which undergo proliferation under the influence of excessive hormonal stimulation, so maybe causing in the breast endometrium and myometrium, etc. And women who receive estrogen therapy once again are under the risk of developing endometrial carcinoma, and the oral contraceptives for a longer time when the people consume is having the risk of developing breast cancer. So the hormone treatment also having more relation with the developing of the cancer here. And coming to the conclusion of Nidana, we have seen both Ayurvedic and the modern Nidana. So what exactly has happened as, so the exact etiology explained for the cancer in modern medicine, there is no such a specific Nidana as mentioned here. And while explaining the positive, the positive factors for the cancer, given more stress to the genetic predisposition, chemical, physical carcinogens, viruses, radiation, immunodepletion, diet and emotion. And coming to Ayurveda, the Mithyahara, that is faulty dietary habits, Mithya Vihara may be exposure to the Atapa Sevana, Madhyapana, Shoka, Krodha, etc. And also which leads to the Tridosha Prakopa and Rakta Dushti will be a cause here. And other, we have seen the Musti Prahara, the Aghata, repeated injuries to the muscle tissue and Atimamsa Sevana. So by observing all these things, we can understand that or conclude that more or less similar causative factors has been mentioned for both the systems for causing cancer or arbuda. And coming to the classification of tumor, generally it is classified in benign and malignant tumors, and histopathologically or histologically it has been considered as carcinoma, that is squamous cell carcinoma or the adenocarcinoma, and sarcoma for the bone as well as the soft tissue sarcomas, and cancer of the blood forming cells, that is the leukemia or the blood cancer. And the Arbuda Bheda. So, 6 types of Arbuda has been mentioned both by Charaka as well as Shushruta, Vata Pitta Kapha, Medoja and Raktaja Arbuda. Bela has classified into Vata Pitta Kapha and Mamsa. And Harita, only 4 types, that is Vata, Pitta, Kapha and Sanipataja. And coming to the Lakshanas of Arbuda, so in general, once again, it is similar to that of Granthi. So in Granthi, the main feature is Vigratitva, means the strong, not like a consistency or the hard consistency. Whereas in Arbuda, further with this property, there is, which is Mahan and Analpa Mula, very big and deep rooted. So the doshas are same as that of Granthi, but there are certain differences in some type of Arbuda, that is Raktaja and Mamsaja Arbuda. And the Samanya Lakshana of Arbuda is, once again, it is the Vrattam Stiram, Mandarujam, Mahantam, Analpamulam, Chiravriddhi Apakam. And here the specific or the salient feature of Arbuda, what we can tell is, that is Shota. Okay. And the signs and symptoms according to the modern, that is the for the cancer, is why the signs and symptoms are very very important according to modern is because this particular signs and symptoms of the disease, cancer will be a common signs and symptom of other diseases also, hence it has become the second leading cause of death in the world. So to understand or the to understand the aggressiveness of the disease, to understand or to have an proper awareness, the major signs and symptoms of the other diseases also included under this particular heading called caution, that means the danger signs and symptoms. So when it will be become, because it is, I told you that it is the signs and symptoms you can see in other common diseases also, it will become caution or it will become danger when it will be continuing, the same signs and symptoms will continue for more than 2 weeks. So here the C stands for change in bowel or bladder habits, A for a sore and or an ulcer that does not heal, U stands for unusual bleeding or discharge through mouth, nose, ears, anus or genitalia, and T for thickening lump or tumor mass in any part of the body, especially superficial of the skin, mouth, breast or elsewhere. I stands for ingestion or difficulty in swallowing or a painful or burning swallowing. O for an obvious change in a wart or a mole. So a person may be having a wart or a mole since many days or many years, but there will be a sudden change in this form in the particular wart or a mole will be again dangerous or it is alarming and end for a nagging cough or hoarseness of voice. So I told this particular symptoms may be there for many other diseases also, but when this will continue more than 2 weeks, then really it is alarming. We should or you should meet your physician or a doctor here. The other general symptoms are rapid and unexplained weight loss, anorexia, nausea and vomiting, fatigue, weakness, confusion, fever, dyspnea, edema, effusions and frequent infections and pain. And coming to the Ayurvedic perspective, so here I want to give more concentration regarding the two different diseases or the two different terminologies, that is the Gulma and Arbuda. So both of these diseases have a similar nature where Arbuda we can explain that which will happen in the exterior of the body, whereas Gulma in the internal of the body, especially in the Mahashrotas or the gastrointestinal tract. So coming to the Ayurvedic perspective, Ayurvedic classics were not unaware of the malignant disease. So they refer to it as a superficial swelling on the body, that is Arbuda. And by definition, Arbuda we know that is due to the vitiation of the Tridoshas, it is affecting Mamsa Dhatu, which is circular, fixed and firm, slightly painful, big or widespread, deep-seated, slowly growing and non-suppurative. And if you see, when Arbuda is situated in deeper structures, as I told, we can consider, or it has been described as Gulma, where once again it is defined as a tumor or a growth that has developed from Mahashrotas, where which has palpable mass, elevated from inside the body, hard to touch and round in shape, it is non-suppurative. And also based on the clinical presentations, clinical presentations and its relation to other different organ systems involved, we can even consider some other diseases where some of the types of the diseases has been mentioned as it is uh, difficult to cure or asadhya. Like for example, if the arbuda or the gulma which afflicts the pranamaha shrotas, we can consider it as kshataja kasa. So for example, the bronchogenic carcinoma explained in the modern also will be having the similar signs and symptoms and the nidana which has been told for the kshataja kasa, where in Ayurvedic in the kshataja kasa there is explanation of sashushkam kasate sapurvam kasate shushkam tataha sa raktashtivana. So that means here in a bronchogenic carcinoma also, so initially there will be a dry cough followed by the the hemoptysis here. So such things are there or such symptoms are there where we can connect or correlate these diseases here. And similarly, the Annavaha Shrotas as Gulma and Yakrut or the Yakrutodara mentioned in the Udara chapter, where it is told Ashtilado and Kachapa Samstanavat and the Tivra Ruja or Suchibiriva Ruja, etc. For example, here we have the cholangiocarcinomas where the liver has got enlarged, that means a massive enlargement of the liver with nodular formation, a hard liver we can visible from our naked eyes. Similarly, the Prihodara. So that means there are few diseases, even though the name has not been given as Arbuda, but we can consider these diseases by seeing its signs and symptoms and the aggressiveness and asadhyata of the diseases. So on the basis of the cause, prognosis, treatment, various diseases described in Ayurvedic classics may be considered as malignant. So here I would like to explore more on gulma in relation to cancer, because we get such a references that the gulma can be considered as the malignant tumor, because we get the reference like pakvashiye pitta pakvashiye, that is developed in the mahashrotas, and sparshopalabhya, that is palpable mass, and mamsat uttundatena, so that will it will be elevated or protruded from inside the body, and ashmari sadrisha kathinya, so it is very hard to touch, and paripinditatvat, very round in shape, and granthi rupinam appears like a cystic growth, and na pakam upatyataha, that means it is non-suppurative. And if you see the Gulma, it's very, we will be just surprised to see the Nidana of Gulma here. Paripedanath, irritation due to a pressure. Atipedanath, once again, a constant irritation due to some other external pressure. Bahya Abhigatat, once again, such an external injury or an irritation. Shoka, grief. Vega Avaroda, suppression of natural urges leading to the excessive predisposing factor. And Rukshanna Sevana, regular intake of dry food or maybe something a dry diet, etc. And Vata Prakriti person indulging in such further nidana can be taken as the genetic predisposition here. And the Vyavaya may be a continuous indulgence in the sex or frequently indulging in sex, and multiplicity of partners are linked with the cervix cancer. So these are all the different etiology mentioned for the Vataja Gulma here. So similarly, if you see the Kafaja Gulma and the other what you can call and so if you coming to the signs and symptoms of the Vataja Gulma also, they tell Sthana Samsthana Ruja Vikalpa, where this particular Vataja Gulma also can be compared with the obstruction of the bowel due to a tumor. So that means an intestinal obstruction with a tumor can be correlated with the Vataja Gulma, where they tell the antiperistaltic movement due to the obstruction we can see as the Gulma is moving here, and also the colicky pain which appears and disappears suddenly, we can compare it with the similar to that of the bowel obstruction, where the signs and symptoms are similar. And even the admana, the krishatva, etc. Once again, in the intestinal obstruction, there will be wasting of the body muscles or the cachexic body. We can compare it with the krishatva. And coming to the kafaja gulma, once again, if the kafaja gulma, which is develops in the amashaya, and it represents the signs and symptoms of the kafaja gulma, and if it develops in the pachamanashaya, it represents the pittaja gulma, and if it is in the pakvashaya, it refers to the vataja gulma. So likewise, we can understand this particular different aspects of the gulma. And finally, the etiology, the structure, the signs and symptoms, and the treatment of Kafaja Gulma is also, it is well resembles with the Arbuda line of treatment. Hence, we can say that the Gulma as well as Arbuda are having close relation, so that we can understand that the Gulma will be in the internal body, the tumor developing in the internal part of the body, and Arbuda in the exterior part of the body. And Samanya Samprapti as Granthi and Arbuda, once again, it is similar in its Nidana, Samprapti, etc., where only specific Nidana has been mentioned for Mamsaja and Rataja Arbuda. And this particular Samprapti can be understood by there is a specific explanation given why Arbuda will not get Paka. There we can understand this Samprapti little more clearly. And coming to the Vishesha Samprapti, of course, that is the Rakta Pitta Visheshan leading to the Rakta Visheshan, causing a growth in the Rakta Nala, which will be maybe a non-suppurative growth, or sometimes there will be inflammation and causing the discharge, etc. And the Mamsaja Arbuda, the trauma by mushti or log or stick, produce painless, smooth skin colored, stony hard and fixed swelling which never suppurates, and consumption of excessive meat. And here there is one more explanation given by Madhavanidhana, where he mentions Raktarbuda and Mamsarbuda. So both these are the causative factors for respective arbudas, but yet along with the Raktaja arbuda, Pitta is having a very close relationship. Similarly, along with the Mamsaja arbuda, Vata is having a close relationship. So without Vata in case of Mamsaja arbuda, without Pitta in Raktaja arbuda, there is no development of disease, or there is no Roga Arambaka. And it is just like a Grita Dugdha Nyaya. It is mentioned by Madhavanidhana, because Grita is always mixed with the milk. Here, the Pitta and Vata are always associated with Rakta and Mamsa. And as I told, why Arbuda does not get Paka, if we see this, we can understand how the Samprapti has been developed for the Arbuda. So it has been mentioned that na Paka Mayati Kafadikatvat Medo Bahutvacha Visheshatastu Doshasthiratvat Gratanacha Tesham Sarva Arbudhaneya Nisargatastu. So Kafadikyata. So what is this Kafadikyata? So the dominance of Kafa or extraordinarily vitiated kapha supersedes the inflammatory process. For paka or suppuration to occur naturally, Pitta and Rakta is needed invariably. But in Arbuda, as there is predominance of the Kapha dosha, it supersedes the process of getting Paka or suppuration. And the second one is Medo Bahutvacha. So the predominance of Medas hampers the inflammatory process and acts as a cushion to the new growth. So thus an Arbuda, irrespective of its type, generally does not undergo Paka. And another thing is dosha stiratvat. So what is this dosha stiratvat? That means the intense aggravation of the doshas, because this particular disease to happen, this accumulation of dosha is since many years together. So the extreme vitiation of the doshas causes katinyata of the shofa and hence does not get paka. And another is dosha gratanatva, that is once again the further stage of the dosha stiratva, and the stirata of the dosha is maintained throughout, and hence the rakta and pitta cannot get vriddhi here. Because of this specific feature, gratanata or stirata or noted doshas or compactness or encapsulation of the doshas, Arbuda does not get paka. And another one, very, very important is nisargatastu. That means it is the swabhava or the nature of the disease that doesn't get paka. So apart from all the above mentioned reasons, the main cause of its being non-inflammatory or apaka is because of the swabhava or the nature of the disease, nisargato vyadi swabhavat. So that is how the samprapti of the arbuda we can understand. So coming to the pathology of cancer, so this is, I wanted to explain this little more before going to the treatment, because when we understand the pathology of the cancer, then we can understand how we can treat, at what level we have to treat and what are the different medications can be used, etc. So coming to the pathology of the cancer, so listen carefully here, because if you miss a small link here, you may not understand the further pathology here, because it's a very complicated pathology. So cancer is a singular word that embraces a vast diversity of diseases that can occur in any organ system throughout the animal kingdom. And here the specificity of the cancer cell is, the unique characteristic of a cancer is the proliferation of the cells of a type different from the normal complement of the organism. So this can be understood by, when a cell divides, it is the rules that it should be similar to the divided cells should have the similar properties in the size, structure, everything. It should similar to the original cell. But what happens in the cancer, the proliferative cells means the daughter cell will not resemble to the mother cell. So that is the unique characteristic of the cancer here. And the carcinogenesis or the tumorogenesis or oncogenesis means mechanism of induction of tumor. So here the agents which can induce the tumors are called carcinogens. So here the etiology of cancer, how it is making or how it does the induction of the tumor is very, very important. So it has been categorized into four basic uh, etiology, which is very, very important. The first one is the molecular pathogenesis of cancer, where the genes and cancer relation, and chemical carcinogenesis and chemical carcinogenesis, and physical carcinogens and radiation carcinogenesis, biologic carcinogens, and the viral oncogenesis. And the another phase of this, we know now exactly what are the four different aspects of etiology of cancer and how it act on the cells. So normally in the normal regulatory genes, which are the principal target cells of genetic damage here. So what are those four different type of genes which is responsible for the changes that happens in a cell? So normally what happens is, there are four different categories of cells which look after the normal functioning of the body, or normal cell division of the body, normal copying of the genetic material into the next cells, etc. So any derangements in their functions will cause a mutation. So that is what happens here. So normally there is a growth promoting proto-oncogenes, and second one is the growth inhibiting tumor suppressor cells. And third is the genes that regulate programmed cell death, or it is called as the apoptosis. And fourth one is the genes which involved in the DNA repair. So a cell to get growth, further proliferation, that should get an external stimuli that you should now grow further or proliferate. Then only these proto-oncogenes start proliferating. And that doesn't know how much it should proliferate or grow. So there is another gene which is called as the growth inhibiting tumor or suppressor gene, which know when to stop that particular proto-oncogenes from its growth. And there is another thing, a genes which regulate the programmed cell death. That means once a cell is formed, that has to die. So that has been programmed, or it has been programmed when it should die. So that is called as the programmed cell death or apoptosis. And another thing, during all these processes, there may be some amount of variation, some amount of no, what you can call the mutations or some derangements in this particular thing. Means there is a particular gene called DNA repair gene. So this will, the small error in the functions will be, or the error in the DNA will be repaired by this particular DNA repair gene. So we'll see. So what is the next step here? So the carcinogenesis is a multi-step process at both the phenotypic and genetic level. A malignant neoplasm has several phenotypic attributes such as excessive growth, local invasiveness, and ability to form the distant metastasis. We'll see how it happens. The characteristics, these characteristics are acquired and in a stepwise fashion in a phenomenon called tumor progression. So we'll see how the tumor progression happens. So here what happens, we have seen the four different types of uh, genes which are helping in the normal functioning of the cells. So when there is a alteration in the DNA, or the uh, alteration in the functioning of these things. So what happens here means, the first one, that is the self-sufficiency in growth signals. So what happens actually, for the first, that is the growth promoting oncogenes should get a stimuli to grow further. But what happens here is that will lose that particular stimuli, and it doesn't need any stimuli to proliferate further. So without any external stimuli, usually there will this because of the overactivation of the oncogene, it starts getting proliferation. And another thing what happens here is insensitivity to the growth inhibiting signals. That means the tumor may not respond to the molecule that are inhibitory to the proliferation of the cells. That means the second one we have seen, that is the growth inhibiting or the suppressing cells. Now this proto-oncogene will not listen to the growth suppressing gene. And one more thing what happens, the tumor may not resistant to the programmed cell death. Now at the same time, the programmed cell death or the apoptosis will not happen. So instead of dying, that particular cell will continue to grow. And another thing is the defect in the DNA repair, or there is a gene called as the DNA repair gene, and that also will never respond, or the DNA repair will not happen. So all this together uh, will further, it will be uh, cause for the replication of the proliferative, or it increases the proliferative capacity of the oncogene, and there will be sustained angiogenesis. So this is a specific thing, happens only in case of a malignant tumor, because a tumor to grow further, it needs the nourishment. And what happens here is, so this particular new onco or the tumor will, it is not enough to get from the normal tissues the nourishment. So it will create its own environment, its own blood vessels to get the nourishment from the body. So that is called as the angiogenesis, and ability to invade and metastasis. So further it will be very strong now, and it will not listen to any of the other stimuli, any of the tumor suppressor cell, and it will even escape from the immune system of the body, and further it will be metastasis to form the cancer and leading to the death. And furthermore, to understand this molecular pathogenesis, it is necessary to understand how the body is developed from birth to death. As we know, human cells contain 23 pairs of chromosomes. Listen here very carefully. One from each of the parent, father and mother, and each chromosome contains hundreds of genes. I repeat, each chromosome contains 100 of genes. There is a gene for each characteristic of a person, like the color of the skin, height, quality of the teeth, etc. And there are approximately 1 lakh genes in each human cell. And these genes control cell character of a person from birth to death. And we can think of them as the control center for the cell. And in each cell, some genes decide when that particular cell should divide, that we have seen now, and giving rise to a daughter cells. These genes are called as the proto-oncogenes. Another set of genes decide when the multiplication should stop, that we have already seen, that is the tumor suppressor genes. And normally there is a balance between the actions of these two groups. And cell division is thus very well controlled and occur only as per the needs of the person. And sometimes something goes wrong with one of these genes. That means that may be a mutation resulting in loss of control in between these action. And what happens here is the cell and its daughter cell now begin to multiply uncontrollably, giving rise to a mass of useless cells, which is we call it as a tumor. We'll see another phase of this. So how it happens. So the defect in the gene is an, or what we understood is the mutation is an accident of the nature occurring spontaneously during the cell division. So normally what happens means before a cell divides, the entire genetic material in the cell has to be duplicated by making a copy of the existing genes. And during this process, sometimes there is an error of copying occurs. This error is called as the mutation. So that is what happens in between and which will be continuous without getting repaired. It will be causing the accumulation of the many tumors. And that is when a cell divides, it replicates its DNA. It is a biochemical manuscript with some 3 billion characters. And if you make it a long thing, it will be, it will measure, I mean, it may be a many kilometers long in its length. In the course of transcription of such a lengthy document, it is said that even a skilled typist could be expected to do some mistakes. And the cells, like typists, occasionally do error during this transcription or during this copying of the genetic material. And more often, the mistakes they make are minor, and then it will be quickly repaired by the proteins or the DNA repairing genes. Whereas occasionally the cells defect in the DNA continue to divide, eventually forming small growths. Such an accumulation of error or the mutation afflicting in formation of the cancer formation. So this is what I wanted to share with you. So that is how the molecular pathogenesis of cancer happens. So when we know this, we can understand now at which level we have to treat or how we have to understand Arbuda. And to sum up this, so the chemical substances or the radiations from the outside, all these things act upon the regular cell leading to the DNA uh, or the a small mutation or error in the DNA, which will be causing the DNA injury. So usually, if it is a minor thing, there will be a successful repair of by the DNA repairing genes. And if at all, if it is not taken care, then what happens? It will be leading to the inability to the repair to the DNA, causing genome mutations or the somatic cell mutation will happen. So once there is this somatic cell has been mutated, there will be three things happens altogether. That is activation or overactivation of the growth of promoter oncogenes and inactivation of the tumor suppressor genes and change in the genes which will be causing the apoptosis. So the apoptosis will not happen. So what happens? There will be reduction in the apoptosis. That means it is less, and the other one is the upper hand. That is the re-regulated cell proliferation. Here the cell proliferation will be in upper hand and apoptosis is less. So these two things together lead to the clonal expansion, or further there will be angiogenesis from one side, that is the new vascular formation for the nourishing of the newly formed tumor, as well as the additional mutations happens here, and there is these cells will be escaping from the immunity and causing the tumor progression, leading to the invasion and metastasis, which is called as the cancer here. So this is the brief thing about the cancer pathology. I think I'm little but the PPTs will be left to you. Once you read 2 to 3 times, you can understand what is it exactly. And coming to how does cancer spread? So here the spread is both um, in both of them, the malignant cells are carried into distant sites. Maybe it is due to the local or direct spread, or invasion by lymphatics through blood vessels, through serous cavities, or through the natural inoculation. And similarly, the metastasis, that means here metastasis means spread of the cancer cells from one part of the body to the other part of the body. So here what happens? So this particular tumor cells to break or lose from a primary mass enter the blood vessels or lymphatics and produce a secondary growth at a distance. They must go a series of steps further to continue the growth of the tumor from that particular site. So what happens? This particular metastasis may be at the basement of the membrane of the tumor itself, or at the level of interstitial connective tissue, or it may be at the basement membrane of microvasculature. And another important factor is categorization of the cancer. This is very, very important for the purpose of the treatment and understand the prognosis of the disease. Coming to the grading of the cancer is based on the degree of differentiation of the tumor cells and the number of mitosis. That means number of anaplastic cells or the abnormal cells and the number of normal cells, how much it is there in the particular cell. So that will count, or that will have an with that particular result, we can understand how dangerous or how aggressive the disease is, or what is the prognosis of the disease. So the grading indicates how bad a particular type of cancer, that is its capacity to spread by blood, or that means the cancer are classified into 4 different categories. So in this 4 different categories, it is increasing in order actually. For example, in the grade 1, we can see well different when some people will be getting the histopathological report of the cancer or the biopsy report, etc. So there it is mentioned that it is well differentiated carcinoma or adenocarcinoma or squamous cell carcinoma. Then we should understand that well differentiated, and it is grade 1 means less than 25% of the cells are anaplastic here. That means 75% of the normal cells are there seen. And if it is grade 2, it is called as moderately differentiated, but 25 to 50% of anaplastic cells and 25 to 50% of normal cells. And grade 3, once again, it is poorly differentiated, but here 50 to 75% of the anaplastic cells are the abnormal cells. Whereas in grade 4, it is called as poorly differentiated. So somebody when come to you with a report telling that it is poorly differentiated carcinoma, then we can understand that the diagnosis is also very poor, and the no, what is the extent of the metastasis, or the risk to develop metastasis is higher in such condition. So here more than 75% of the cells are anaplastic or abnormal. And coming to the staging, it is the size of the primary lesion and the extent of the spread to the regional lymph nodes, and the presence of blood-borne metastasis is very, very important for the staging. So we call it as TNM staging. T stands for the primary tumor, N for the regional lymph node involvement. For example, if it is a breast cancer, the axillary, if it is a right breast cancer, the right axillary lymph nodes involvement will be there. And M stands for the distant metastasis, whether it is a primary tumor or it is having its spread to the other part of the body. So this will be understood in the form of the numbering has been given here. T0 to T4. That means that shows the aggressiveness. Or for example, in situ. T0 means it is in situ or it is not at all very small tumor. And the lesion largest and the most extensive primary tumor. T2, T1, T2, T3, T4. So if it is T4 means we have to understand it is an extensive primary tumor. And N0 to N3. That means no nodal involvement to widespread lymph node involvement. That means N0 means there is no nodal involvement. And if it is N3, that means the nodal involvement is highest. And similarly, M0 to M2. M0 means there is no metastasis, only the primary tumor is there. And if there is metastasis, we call it as that is the stage 4. That is, especially in the treatment line, we know that stage 4 means it is incurable according to the modern. So this is the staging and diagnosis of the cancer according to the modern. That is, there are many more methods now for the early detection. So hence we also come to know that means more and more cancer people are coming as or diagnosed. So like the radiographic examination like X-rays, CT scan, etc., ultrasonography, magnetic resonance imaging, angiography, isotope scanning, mammograms, especially for the breast tumors, and the very important one, and the what you can call, which is very prognostic and diagnostic, is only the biopsy. So the biopsy may be incisional biopsy, excisional biopsy, and aspiration cytology. And other things are the pap test, endoscopic examination, and the immunohistochemistry. And other investigatory methods are the tumor markers or the biochemical markers. So there we complete the modern aspects of the pathogenesis and the diagnosis of the cancer. So coming to the Upadrava, which has been mentioned in Arbuda, here specifically for the Raktarbuda, it is mentioned that because of the Raktasrava, Pandu as a Upadrava has been mentioned. And there is mentioning of Adhyarbuda and Dvirarbuda also can be taken under the Upadrava. So this can be correlated with the secondaries here. And coming to the Sadhya Sadhyata of Arbuda, specifically the Vataja, Pittaja, Kafaja and Medoja Arbuda, it is Chikitsa Sadhya, whereas Asadhya Arbudas are the Raktaja Arbuda and the Mamsaja Arbudas. And even the Sadhya Arbuda becomes Asadhya if the conditions like Samprasrutam, that means having continuous bleeding from the Arbuda, and Marmasthana Sthita, if it is in the especially the vital parts of the body, then also it is difficult to cure. And Achalya, that means immovable or stable, that means it has its fixation to the body. In such condition, it is not possible. And Adhyarbuda, the Arbuda which formed over the same site of previous Arbuda. So all these different explanation, even in the modern science also we will be getting. And also Dvirarbuda, formation of two Arbudas together, one over the other. And Haritha says that constantly growing and round Arbudas are incurable. And if you see, the carcinoma in primary stage can be curable to a greater extent, and but in the secondaries or the metastatic stage is incurable. And therapy in cancer. So before coming to the therapy or the treatment aspects in the Ayurvedic line, I just wanted to give a small introduction regarding the therapy in cancer. So till date, there are only three major conventional therapies of the cancer. That is, as we know that is surgery, radiation therapy, and chemotherapy. So usually the surgery will be carried out in case of a curable disease. Whenever it is a primary, maybe a primary lung cancer, so they will undergo the resection of the particular tumor from the lungs. So, and followed by some other things like maybe a radiation or chemotherapy followed by. But whenever we do surgery, so that is only the curative purpose. But another instance of surgery will be doing as whenever, even though it is a stage 4 or incurable stage, when this particular mass or the tumor is having some pressure effects on the other parts of the body, then also as a what you can call the to reduce the sufferings, so there will be surgeries. And this is the surgery and radiation is the local treatment, whereas the systemic treatment include chemotherapy, that is the administration of the anti-malignant drugs, and hormonal therapy giving or the withdrawing of the hormones, and immunotherapy, and which is also now it is upcoming, and these are the different therapies in modern. And coming to the Chikitsa and Chikitsa Sutra or the principles of Chikitsa Sutra, Chikitsa in Arbuda, since the Nidana, Lakshana, Samprapti of Arbuda and Granthi are similar, here also the treatment is prescribed for Granthi should be followed here. And as the Arbuda included among the vitiation of Mamsa and Medas, and hence the treatment prescribed for the diseases due to the vitiation of Mamsa, like Shodhana, Chikitsa, Shastra Karma, and Anushastra procedures can be carried out. And for the diseases of Medas, that is Medohara, the Staulyahara line of treatment, so judiciously we have to follow this. And the Arbuda line of treatment depends upon many factors, according to Shishruta, and even Charaka also tells this. That depends upon the Pradesha of the Arbuda, the Karma, the Akriti, the Dosha, the Dosha involved here. Granthi Arbudanam cha yato avisheshaha. That means once again, Pradesha Hetu Akriti Dosha Doshyani Tat Chikiset Bishak Arbudani. So Samanya Chikitsa and Vishesha Chikitsa. So Samanya Chikitsa once again that is mainly concentrated locally, and Vishishta Chikitsa has been mentioned for the Vataja Arbuda, Pittaja Arbuda, and other types of Arbudas separately, where Vataja Arbuda externally or locally when there is a swelling, you can go for some of the Upanahas, Veshavara, Nadi Sweda, Raktamokshana with the Shranga internally, and Shatapak Shranga, and internally Shatapaka Trivrit Leha, Trivrit Sneha can be given, or even the Trivrit Sneha with Shatahua, Pittaja Arbuda, principles of Svedana of Mradu variety here, and Upanaha Mradu Snehana, and Kaya Virechana and Rakta Mokshana has been mentioned. And internally, the Grita prepared out of Shama, Draksha, Anjanaka, etc. are beneficial. So these are the specific treatments mentioned here. And coming to the Kafaja Arbuda, Vamana, Virechana, Rakta Mokshana with Alabo, Siravyadana, Lepa with some of the specific drugs called as Shankachurna, Molaka Basma, Kanji, etc. Upanaha with Tikshna Ushna Dravyas like Madana, Chitraka, Karanja, Argoda, etc. So, by seeing all these things, what we have understood is because it is a very chronic disease which takes to develop in the body, there is a chronic accumulation of the doshas in the body, which is in the form of very compact, or we can call it as very hard in nature. So, in order to relieve this, initially there should be a Shodhana line of treatment, and we know Arbuda specifically more of Kafaja in Medoja in nature. So it needs a Shodhana therapy to bring back to the doshas to the at least to we can give energy, or what we can call give nourishment, or give some boosting to the normal cells here. So we have to protect the normal cells, at the same time we have to destruct the abnormal cells here. So that is why always Shodhana is an initial therapy we can consider it. So if we see Vataja, Pittaja, Kafaja also, everywhere there is mentioning of Shodhana therapy here. And the next is for the local therapy. Especially for the Kafaja Arbuda, there is a Shastra Karma has been mentioned here. So here also the Shastra Karma, so very specifically because especially the sarcoma, etc. are very huge swelling will be there. In such a condition, this Shastra Karma cannot be followed at once. So what they do is here, they will be applying a lepa over the particular swelling, and especially with the Kapota Avishta, Kamsya, Mala, Sirisha, Langali, Gomutra, Kshara, etc. and apply the kalka of Masha, Pinyaka, Kulata, Dadi over it, so that it will be left as it is to generate cremies over it. So once with this, there is a formation of cremies, and the cremies will start eating this tumor. So that was the olden method, and now also there is a particular treatment called as um, the maggot therapy, which has been nowadays it is getting or explored out, and it is becoming more famous now, the maggot therapy. So this was performed in the olden days also. So the cremies attack and eats away the arbuda and thereby reduces its size. Once the size is reduced, then we will be going for the Dushta Vrana line of treatment. So because we have to concentrate on the Vrana Chikitsa now. And even Medoja Arbuda also, Svedana Karma, Shastra Karma, and Prakshalana Karma, Rakta, Stambhana, and after all these things, the Sivana Karma. If it is wide open, then you have to make it very neat and then you have to go for the Sivana Karma. And for the Raktaja and Mamsaja Arbuda, as it is said to be Asadhya, only clinically or to maintain the condition, we are going to give some of the symptomatic treatment here. And it is important to treat the arbuda with complete excision. So this is very clearly mentioned. That means they have understood the extent of tumor here. That means they have understood clearly regarding the metastasis of the disease. That is why it is told by Shushruta and even in Ashtanga Hridaya that arbudas in which the doshas are left, they will have a very fast recurrence. Thus, these should be always completely removed and the remnants should be destroyed totally with the help of Kshara Karma, Shastra Karma or Agni Karma in the same way as fire burns a thing completely. That means this particular the the topic itself or the understanding of this particular Shastra Karma in the complete excision itself will give us a clear cut idea that this Arbuda, what they were speaking about was a malignant tumor. And that completes the Arbuda Chikitsa. So similarly coming to the Gulma, see how we can understand the treatment because we have already seen that is also a tumor which is deep rooted and which is also having the nature of malignancy. So regarding the uh, uh, treatments, once again it simulates with the Arbuda Chikitsa because apart from the Snehana, Svedana, Anulomana, Vamana, Virechana Chikitsa, the main Chikitsa indicated in Gulma are the Kshara Karma, Agni Karma and Shastra Karma. So if we see other diseases, specifically, especially Gulma, it would have been a very simple disorder. There was no need of mentioning this Kshara Karma, Agni Karma and Shastra Karma, etc. here. But they have very specifically mentioned and especially the Paniya Kshara or the internal administration of the Paniya Kshara and it has been mentioned in a specific manner that is repeatedly with the interval of 2 to 3 days should be administered. So if we see the modern chemotherapy, so there is an interval between the chemotherapy. Maybe initially the drugs will be infused through the intravenous this thing route, maybe 1 day or 2 days or 3 days continuously. Then there is a gap of nearly 21 days, and that remain changing with the different kinds of medicine what they are using. But definitely there is a interval has been given. Similarly, in Gulma, if you take and read, you will get a reference that this Paniya Kshara should be administered in an interval of 2 to 3 days. And a very interesting thing while reading Gulma is, so they have mentioned it should be administered or the Vaidya, it should be by a Kshara Kovida. You know, Kshara Kovida or the Kovida means an expert in the Kshara treatment. And even one more interesting thing mentioned there is the before administration of the Kshara internally, the patient should be undergo a fitness certificate or a fitness examination or a fitness for screening should be done by a physician. So that much they were evident or they were having an idea regarding this particular disease as well as the treatment. That means before undergoing the Kshara treatment, the physician should give a fitness certificate to the patient that the person can be taken for Kshara. And also the Kshara treatment who is giving, it should be Kshara Kovida he is mentioning here. And if you see, the ancient authors have preferred the Kshara Karma first and then the Shastra Karma because Paniya Kshara act on the tumor as well as on the metastasis developed elsewhere in the body, where the role of Shastra Karma is limited only to a particular organ. So this is more highlighting why, because if you see the modern chemotherapy, so always that's what I told you, surgical treatment will be given whenever it is locally there. Once if it is spread from one place to the other place, then we call it as it is stage 4 or metastasis, where we cannot go for a surgery because surgery is not a successful treatment here, because if you remove from one place, there is another place, there is another swelling, isn't it? So that is why they go for a chemotherapy, where it will systemically it will act and it will reach the target organs. So here also the Paryakshara can be considered it as a like a chemotherapy. So it will act the tumor elsewhere in the body, and whereas the Shastrakarma is limited to a particular organ. And the Kshara given internally acts on the Mamsa Dhatu, and each and every point what I'm speaking here is it is with the reference, okay? And it cuts, and this particular Kshara, it cuts and destroys the sick cell of Gulma, destroys the malignant cells of the tumor. This is from CHIKITSA, 5th chapter. And Kshara is nothing but alkali. The treatment with the different kinds of alkali prepared with many medicinal plants will be much more effective, and it helps in the systemic healing of the Kaphaja Gulma. Specifically, it is for the Kaphaja Gulma, and this can be compared with the chemotherapy used in cancer patient, especially in the metastatic stage, with the aim of preventing cancer cells from multiplying, proliferating, and metastasizing. And there is another treatment called as Agrikarma, and it is indicated when the Gulma does not respond to the Kshara Karma, and it is done with the Sharaloha. This is once again because from Chikitsa, 5th chapter. The Tikshna and Ushna properties of Agni acts on the Kaphaja Gulma. The sick cells and extra growth of Kaphaja Gulma is destroyed by the Agni Karma. And this particular procedure can be compared to that of the radiation therapy given in cancer patients at the affected site. And another one is the Shastrakarma. It is another procedure indicated in Gulma as well as in even in Gulma also. Surgery is very well explained, and that you can read once again if you go through the Kaphaja Gulma. The Shastrakarma has been mentioned in a very different way, and specifically it is limited to the particular organ site. The surgical procedure carried out in cancer patients mainly indicated when there is a cure. That is what I told you already. And with these above references, we can conclude that the Gulma mentioned in the classics can be correlated to the malignant growth occurring in the GI tract. And there are some Arbudahara yogas mentioned. So usually, so actually this completes the completely regarding the Arbuda or the Gulma. It's a Nidana, Samprapti, and the Chikitsa here. And some commonly used Arbudahara yogas I wanted to share with you, like Kanchanara Gugulu, Chandraprabhavati. Whatever I'm speaking about here, that is having a direct no Falashruti as it is Arbudahara and Gulmahara. Okay. So, and even the Falashruti, like it is also indicated like Kasa, Shwasa, and in Krisha, Shosha, almost all the signs and symptoms which will be also seen in many other cancer diseases when systemically when it is involved. Like Kanchanara Gugulu, Chandraprabhavati, Raudra Rasa, Rasagandhi Mejugu, Amavatari Rasa, Talakeshwara Rasa, Nityananda Rasa, Khadirarishta, Madhusnuhi Rasayana, etc. So, coming to the Patya, of course, we should properly maintain the Dinacharya and Rutucharya. We should always abide to the rules and regulations mentioned to the Sadvrata. So that is why our Acharyas has mentioned all these things initially in the chapter itself. The Dinacharya, Rutucharya, Ratricharya, and the what is that? The Sadvrata or the Achara Rasayana. All these things are very much needed to make our body in a well compromised manner or in a well nourished, as well as to make a healthy development of the body. So coming to the Patya, it is Purana Gratapana and Purana Raktashali, Anna and Yava, Mudga, Patola, Rakta Shigro, and Katilaka, Shali, Shaka, Vetragra, Ruksha, Katudravyas, Agnidipaka Dravyas, Shuddha Gugulu, Shuddha Shilajyatu, etc. Similarly, here we should avoid Dugdha Vikaras, Ikshu Vikara, Anupadesha, Pashupakshi, Mamsa, Sevana. That means whenever you do all these things excessively, that will not come with 1 or 2 or 2 days when we are taking all these things. And Pishtana, Mashadi, Dravya, Amla Guru, Madhura Padartha, Abhishyandi and Kledakara, Ahara Viharas. And yeah, the references you will get all these things from the Yogaratnakara, Galaganda Adi Adhikara. And some of the drugs what I am using in my clinical practice, I would like to highlight here. So on what is the probable mode of action? For example, Brahat Gulma Kalala Rasa, so which has mentioned in the Gulmadikara has been taken. That means, so many of the times when the intestinal obstructions or the arbuda related to the Mahashrotas comes, I can use this, I will be using this particular drug. So here almost all the drugs which are having Katutikta, Kashaya Rasa, Laguruksha Guna, and which are having the Depana Pachana, and thus it helps in the Amapachana and improving the Agni. So once again, the Agni is very, very important. We know that Agni is the Moola for each and every disease, and specifically for Arbuda and Gulma also. So that is why our aim should be always improving the Agni. And due to the Lagu, Ruksha Guna and Katu Kashaya Rasa of the many drugs, it will be acting as a liquefying of the Kapha or the Granthi and mobilize the same into the microcirculation of the lymphatic system to eliminate through the body. So this may be a probable mode of action, and it may also help in reduction of the size of the tumor. Here the Madhura Rasa drugs are there. So this Rasa and the Shita Guna properties may prevent the further growth of the tumor and helps in secretion of prostaglandins which act as a painkiller. And by the Lekhana, Chedana, Bedana and Kshara properties, this drug may act on tumor by its scraping nature. So majority of the drugs used here are having the Tridoshahara property, Vatahara property, and helps in relieving the disease. And the drugs like Abraka, Parada, Loha, Gandhaka, and Brangaraja, etc., are Tridoshahara in nature, and it is also mentioned as Rasayana. And the other drugs indicated in the, used in the Gulmakalan Rasa are having the indication like Kasa, Shwasa, Pandu, Shota, Granthi, Apache, Kamala, Gulma, Pliha Roga, Chosha, Udara, and hence it may help in relieving the symptoms of different sites of cancer. So that is why this particular drug I have selected in many of the cancer patients. And coming to the Kanchanara Gugulu, you know, majority of the drugs once again are having Katatikta Kashayarasa, Laguruksha Guna, Tikshna Guna, Ushnavirya, acts as Dipana Pachana, Vedana, Lekhana, so which relieves the anorexia, loss of appetite, and it may also act as an anti-tumor. And Kanchanara Gugulu being the main drug, it is proved for its antitumorous activity, or it is also known for its Arbudahara property and Kafahara property. Similarly, the Triphala is used here, which is also proved separately for the anticancerous property. And Varnadi Kashaya, one more drug I commonly use is the Varnadi Kashaya. So which is having almost, once again, almost all the rasas mentioned previously, like Dipana, Pachana in nature, and Anulomahara, Anulomana, Vedana Stapana, Shotahara, Vedana, and hence acts on the Arbuda and Gulma. And almost the drug is in the combination used here are Vidrudi, Gulma, Gandamala, Apache, Udara, Pandu, Kamala, Shwasakasa, Yakrut, and Pliha Roga. So the drugs used here will be acting on these particular disorders. And the other drugs used in this particular combination is the Shatavari, Chitraka, Ballataka, Shigru, and Haritaki, which are proved to be or having the process or the it is having the anti-cancerous property in vivo and in vitro studies have been proven for it. And as you know, Madhusnuhi Rasayana, which is also especially the Dvitiya Madhusnuhi Rasayana or the this particular combination is very well addressed in case of cancer patients, which is Tridosha Hara in nature, Rasayana, and directly indicated in Arbuda and Gandamala, also acting on other diseases like Shwasakasa, Jwara, Daurbalya, Udara, Granthi, Apache, and Medurogas. So definitely it will have a action on the tumor, and it is acts as an adjuvant and as a rasayana therapy in case of Arbuda you can give this. So especially to protect the normal cells. So our aim should be two here. One should be like a rasayana that to protect the normal cells, and another thing should be a target oriented like an anti-cancerous drug should be used here. And repeated shodhana. So that should be our treatment principle always. And the other thing like Amalaki and Amrita Churna is proven for its anti-cancerous property. So usually these are antioxidants in nature, and that's why I'll be giving as an adjuvant therapy for them. and how to prevent it. So before completing, I just want to give, because all our youngsters, all the UG and PG students, I think they are listening to me. So especially when we are aware of in our day-to-day life, even by knowing us, we are doing many mistakes. At least if we can avoid, and if we share the same knowledge with our neighbors, our family members, then definitely we can control this spread of the cancer or the disease to the uh, further in the community. So avoid excessive intake of coffee and tea and chocolate which have high caffeine. Avoid eating excess meat, as the meat protein is difficult to digest, and undigested meat remaining in the intestine becomes putrefied and produce more toxins. And daily intake of vegetables are very good, like beetroot, capsicum, cabbage, carrot, cauliflower, onion. That means you have to eat more of vegetables to form more of our bowel into a fibrous content. So these are all rich in vitamins and minerals, and rich in fibrous content also. So which all prove to be having anti-cancerous activity. And stay physically active and exercise. That means this reduces the risk of influencing hormone levels and immune system, and keeping the bones strong. And the grains and the beans like kidney beans, brown rice, whole wheat, corn. Whenever we take the, for example, I told the wheat. Whenever so chapati, I think everybody will make their home. So always we will get it from the market, the refined wheat. So always don't do that. Take the whole grain and make it milled one, and then use it. And see that these are all the having proved anti-cancerous properties, along with the rich source of vitamins and minerals. And of course, the spices also said to be is having very good anti-cancerous properties, like the pepper, cardamom, chilies, cinnamon, coriander, cumin, garlic, ginger, mint, etc. Especially the turmeric, very well. And avoid smoking and tobacco. I have explained the risk, how it comes. And the sugar drinks. This is very common, because now it has become a style to have the food with the soft drinks. And the people should understand the risk of developing, or the high level of sugar in soft drinks may increase the level of insulin in the body, thereby contributing the pancreatic cancer and cell growth, cancer cell growth. And the refined wheat, as I told you already, so you should be very much care towards using of this refined wheat. And obesity, once again, it is a risk factor to develop other disorders like esophagus, pancreas, colon, rectum, breast, and kidney, thyroid, and gallbladder cancers. And once again, alcohol, antibiotic, and overstress. Of course, if we are avoiding all other regimens, still we, being human being, we are more stressed, of maybe because of the family issues, or maybe because of the working place, or something else, maybe a community level or a social level. So somewhere there will be some stress. Of course, everybody will be having this stress, but we should find a way to relax our mind and come back from the stress, or normalize, or we have to withdraw from the stress. So we have to find a way on it. And one more important thing is the salt, because we get almost everything, the junk foods, so-called junk foods, we get from the market, and directly it is the most of the tinned food, as well as such a processed food will be containing this salt. A diet overloaded with the salt is putting millions of us twice the risk of contributing stomach cancer. So see, this is the seriousness or the aggressiveness of the salt intake. And it is important to note that most of the salt in our diet comes from processed food, like the bread, frozen meals, pizza, and chips, which our children likes more, not only children, but even the young adults. And foods such as beef, pork, chicken, and fish, when cooked at high temperature, that will produce a compound called heterocyclic amines, HCA, which is again carcinogenic in nature. So should be take care of while cooking all these things. And the other important things we have to understand is good sleep. Of course, the stressed mind will not get a good sleep. So before going into the sleep, we should relax our mind, maybe through our own, we have to, our own prayers, or spending time with our family members, taking food all together. So this will all gives a relaxed mind. So you can go for bed with a good sleep. A good sleep always it will prevent the cancer by increasing the interleukin 2, a well-known anti-cancer commando being used in certain cancer treatments, and alkalizing the body. This is very, very important. I want to stress here because the body, when it is in the alkaline, phase, we are always safe. When the body is put into the acidic media, then we are in risk, because always the cancer cell will thrive or grow more in the acidic nature of the body, with the acidic nature of the body. And so that is why we should very, very much relaxed. So because the stress once again induces or put our body into acidic phase. That is why we should be in our food, in our regimen, and our mental factor. We should be very careful that we should keep our body in a relaxed manner or in an alkalizing phase, so that will reduce the risk of developing cancer. That is why even if the patients are not having any other kind of cancer predisposing factors, still why they get cancer is maybe because of this mental faculty. And the real defense against the cancer is the immune system. That means the growth of the tumor, that depends upon the right survival and favorable conditions in the body. That means the important thing here is we should make our immune system always perfect. So that is the only one. Our immune system is the only one which will prevent earth from getting or developing a tumor, because always a tumor to grow, it needs a very favorable environment. When we are putting our body into a specific condition that is called as the acidic condition, and we are not exercising, the exercise will not reach our body or cells with the proper oxygenation, then again it will keep you into a risk of developing into a cancer. That is what I told here. The diet plays a major role in keeping our body's immune system fit, and thereby preventing cancer by blocking the development of the precancerous cells. And cancer is disease of mind, body and spirit. Anger, unforgiveness and bitterness put the body into a stressful and acidic environment. And as I told, cancer cells cannot thrive in oxygenated environment. So exercising daily and deep breathing help to get more oxygen down to the cellular level, which once again prevents the body from developing into any of the tumors. And this completes my the presentation. But before concluding, if there is time, I think I can just share you few of my clinical experience where I'm treating some of the cancers. We have also have a cancer clinic in our JSS Ayurveda hospital, and at present I have 6 to 7 patients of cancer in my hand. They're all taking treatments, and of course, um, all the whenever we take the cancer patient, whenever we approach a patient with the cancer, we should see the staging of the cancer. Maybe it is a first stage, second stage, third stage, or fourth stage. So before, and that means we have to understand. So usually, what happens when it is a primary tumor, and maybe first or second stage, definitely the modern medicine is having a very good treatment for it, or a cure rate is very high in modern medicine. So here, without having much risk or putting upon the patient, you can definitely send them to the modern medicine for an opinion if they can. So this can be done with the proper understanding with the modern and Ayurvedic approach. So what happens? So usually in such condition, I refer to the patient for the modern medicine. And when they come with the fourth stage, and even from the modern medicine, they also send patient to JSS or the hospital, and then it will be an incurable stage, a stage 4. In such condition, what we can do is, definitely we cannot give a cure there, but definitely we can give some very nice service in the form of improving the quality of life of the patients. So many a times, even because I am having a relation with the modern medicine or the oncologist from Bharat Cancer Hospital, even JSS Ayurveda Hospital, I mean JSS Medical College, and even Preeti Cancer Center, because when they send the patient to us, definitely it is a stage 4 cancer. And with regard, when we give our treatment, how the patient has recovered their normal life, or how the quality has improved, has been is it's actually wonderful. And that is why I'm telling, even though it is a stage 4 cancer, it doesn't mean that the patient is going to die today or tomorrow. It is not like that, because I have 2 to 3 patients who was having a prostate cancer with the stage 4, which is bone with the bone metastasis, and metastasis to the uh, lungs is still now they are very well active. They have been come over here, taken the treatment. And what is my that's what I told, like the repeated shodhana is given, maybe a very what you can call the, it's just a Gandharvahasta the Eranda Taila. Along with the Gomutra, you can give it for 2 to 3 days. Uh, there may be four or five Vegas, or sometimes 1 or 2 Vegas, but this should be given repeatedly, so that we can minimize the vitiation of the doshas. And also we can we can improve the quality of the normal cells here. And provided with, you have to give a anti-cancerous drug and a almost a rasayana drug. So both the combination together you have to give to the patient. So to mention, there is a at this stage we have a cholangiocarcinoma patient. Of course, this is a very grave situation. The patient is now in developed the ascites here. So initially he has taken the same thing. The Gandharvasta, the Eredathela has been given to the patient for 2 to 3 days. And the appetite was very less for him. He was not at all taking. He was telling, madam, I'm taking only a half idli or one idli, that too with the force, because whole day I can stay without any food. So that means he's not at all having appetite, and started the swelling of his legs and all, and he cannot walk. And after coming here with just initial this particular shodhana therapy, and along with that I have added the swarasa of guduchi, the aloe vera or the kumari, and nimba, amrita, etc. It has been given for 3 4 days continuously, along with the katuki churna. So that also made the person to have little more appetite. So that after having his discharge after the 7th day, so he was able to taking 3 times of food. So that is a great achievement. I'm not telling that we can cure the disease in this particular stage, but we can definitely improve the quality of life of the patient, improve, I mean, reduce the or minimize the suffering of the patient. So the patient is still receiving the medications here. And another one is a prostate cancer. Of course, there are 2 to 3 prostate cancer patients are there with me. They are actually one patient was approached with me with the because how this one I wanted to just share with you, because this patient of around 55 years came to me with the uh, pain in the back, a severe pain in the back. He cannot able to lie down because since many days he was telling. And just I was asking what happened. So he wanted to take panchakarma treatment for the back pain. Then just I was asking the history about the bowel habits and the urine. Then he told urination for about 10 to 12 or 13 15 times sometimes. Then I asked, do you have not shown anywhere? Then he told, I have shown, madam. And they have told, you have, there is a prostate enlargement, you have to go for the prostatectomy. But what happened was this man was postponing it. Then I asked, so there is some investigations needed initially before going to the other treatment. So then I have sent him for a PSA test and the other radiological test. So the PSA was very high, about 115, that is the prostate specific antigen. And that itself has understood that there is some problem with it. And the um, other MRI report has come. So it was a prostate cancer with metastasis to the bone, the spine. So because of that reason, he was getting the pain, and I have sent him to the modern medicine, and they have operated. So usually the operation will be the uh, uh, removal of the testicles. So they have did it, and he came back here now. He has received the line of treatment. That I think 2 times he has come over here, because every 1.5 month gap I will give, and I will give the next Shodhana. And another important drug I give is the Shivagutika. which is having a tremendous action, as well as if you see that Shivagutika, there are so many ingredients with the specific the what you can call the main ingredient as Shilajatu, so which is having a very good action over. Especially, I have seen I'm giving 2 to 3 patients of prostate cancer this Shivagutika having a tremendous effect or a wonderful result I'm seeing, and they, without any pain, without any of the sufferings, the patients are much improving in their status. They all these are stage 4, but having a very good normal life. And and similarly, some others like lung cancer patients still now that they are taking case, and even the ovarian cancer, all these things. There are so many other diseases also because of due to lack of time. I'm not able to explain all the things. Anyway, when the patient comes to you initially, the first and foremost thing is counseling to the patients and the family members, because they were all in a agony, or what you can call as. So because even it is very easy to tell to other people or console other people when they come to us, but if it really happens to us, definitely we will be also into more worry, isn't it? So make the patient to understanding regarding the disease, and especially if it is good that if the patient knows about his condition. So many of the time what happens means, the if it is a aged patient or somebody, so people will hide the thing from the patient, and so this itself will causing a problem sometimes, because we always the patient should aware of this thing, so that he can take much more care, and he can read, or he can utilize his time in such a way that how we can prevent it or understand, or the so he'll be start thinking about it. So how can I overcome from this particular condition? So it is always good that if you tell the patient regarding his condition, and also the loved ones or the family members, isn't it? So as we know, cancer nowadays it is getting even in the young ages, maybe at around 20, 30, 35 ages, or even 40 ages, people are getting breast cancers and other cancers. So definitely there will be lot of worries in the family members also. So counsel them properly, make the patient to undergo. And recently I have got a patient who is reluctant to go for the treatment, as it was somebody very our hospital staff who brought to me, and then I counseled her. I told initially, you take the treatment, like she was posted for chemotherapy, but because the reason that she will lose his hairs, she don't want to go to the chemo there. Then I told, even if the hairs you lose, it will come again. But if you lose your life, it is not possible to get it again, isn't it? So that is why you have to go. I have counseled her. Now she is taking the third chemo, and later her surgery will be there. So that is what you have to do, the proper counseling to the patient, and always think that you should be very accurate in the diagnosis, and where you should understand your limitations. That is very important. And any emergency, you should have a very close contact with the modern medicine to manage the condition. And for all these things, again, in holistic approach is very good. So make the patient to, if it is in a the patient can go along with the yoga therapy. If it is in a if the patient can do this yoga, definitely you have make the patient to do some of the yoga and asanas, and pranayama also you can make the patient to learn, and dhyana or the meditation. So these are all the things, maybe especially the hospital with the very good premises like our Jesus hospital is a very different environment for any of the patients, not only for the cancer patient. So a pleasant mind is always needed for in such kind of people. So and so dhyana or a different change of environment is always needed here. And caring the patient with love and affection, that is very important. And because this particular aspect, the caring of the patient is very important in minimizing their sufferings, pain, and diverting their mood. All these things are very important, because we have to tell the patient. That means if we understand, or if we think that in our mind, I don't have any disease, or I can come out with this disease, take a firm decision, definitely you can come out, because the mind is a very fantastic phenomena that if the mind really wants to do it, it will do it. That means you should have the faith in it. So that is why you have to boost the persons or the patients as well as the family members with this particular uh, you know uh, understanding of the or the love, affection, and faith, etc. So this is what I wanted to share. And in the conclusion, it may be appropriate to use the term malignancy or arbuda, gulma, yakrutodara, kshatrajakasa, etc., depending upon the sites of the disease described in Ayurveda. And prevention is possible by avoiding the risk factors and by following the proper lifestyle, that is like dinacharya, rutucharya, ratricharya, sadvrita as per Ayurveda. And the treatment has proved to be of beneficial in improving the general condition and as well as being the general condition and well-being of the cancer patients. And Ayurvedic treatment showed its possible effectiveness as a palliative care treatment, and the patient have shown a possible survival benefit compared to the expected median survival as per the extent of the disease. And in some patients, the tumor have not grown in size during the period of the observation, showing possibility of some anti-tumor activity and helps in reducing the side effects of chemo and radiotherapy, even if we are trying it with the contemporary medicine when they are undergoing the chemo or radiotherapy. Even some of the medications we can give so that the side effects of the drugs will be reduced. And this is the JSS Ayurveda Medical College where our students are performing yoga here. This particular slide, why I kept means this is just to tell regarding the relaxation of the mind, how much it is important, how pleasant it will be for us to relax our mind. Because as I told, acidic nature of our body is always not good. We have to make our body alkaline by performing all these different methods like yoga, pranayama, dhyana, exercise, everything. And finally, thank you one and all for the patient hearing. I don't know how much it has reached to you, but still, thank you very much for all the, especially all the, also my college principal and the staff who are supporting me in all my work in cancer as well as in this presentation. Thank you one and all.
Hello. Now the session is open for discussion. We have very less time left. If at all anybody has serious questions, Madam has already answered most of the basic part and all. If at all you have some important questions, they can put on the chat box, and we will take up few questions only. So there is one question from Rashmi Joshi. Is there any preventive measure specific to breast cancer? What are the preventive measures specific to breast cancer? They're asking your opinion, Madam, Dr. Bina, Madam.
So I told in the predisposing factors, actually there is a familial. So those who are having the history of breast cancer in the family, definitely they should go for the regular screening. That is very, very important because they are having the 3 to 4 times risk than the normal people. So that is one thing. And another thing is the prevention of breast cancer through the self-examination. So every month there should be a regular examination of the breast after the menstruation, after 3 to 4 days. So there is a, if you Google the breast examination, no, definitely you will get the sequential order how to examine the breast. That is very, very important because when you regularly check your breast, you can understand what is something which is abnormal. If it is there, that you can understand, and definitely you can take a necessary action there itself. And other than that, everything is that may be a the risk factors are there. As I told, maybe a diet, maybe a exposure to the radiation or anything like a carcinogen, anything like that. And especially the women who are on the hormonal therapy or even oral contraceptions are having the risk to develop this breast cancer. So one thing is familial, if it is their regular screening, maybe through the mammogram, etc. Or that is the other one is the breast. That means giving awareness even to the family members to go for the regular checkup, monthly checkup of or the self-examination of the breast. Hello? Hello?
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Any more questions? Students, if you have any more questions, please post in the chat box. Okay. Anyhow, I think there are no more questions, madam. I think you have cleared most of the basic concepts of the cancer with respect to etiology, the modern molecular biology, the basic biochemistry involved in the pathogenesis of cancer with the good correlation with Gulma and Arbuda of Ayurveda. For UG students also, it was a lengthy and informative session, and the PG perspective, you have really shared your experiences with highlighting the limitations and where is the scope for Ayurveda with respect to management of cancer as per present situation. And because you are treating the case, it is through experience that you're speaking, and hence it means a lot for everybody. It is not just textual. The cases that you're handling in your hospital, actually, it is a motivation for many of the doctors that at least in that particular stage, when everybody is suffering, financially they are weak, immunologically weak, and in every aspect emotionally weak. Supporting with Ayurveda medicine and improving the quality of life is a great thing. It is as equal to curing a disease in present context, and we are very happy to hear your experiences, madam, and have been educated and with respect to those things. And we'll be looking forward to the second part, is specific management of cancers, because it's a very big topic. I know still you have touched all aspects of cancer, but still there are specific cancer management is in everybody's mind. The guidelines for the most common cancers are in a stage by stage, but that is a big topic, and maybe you are the right person to highlight on that also in future days. Maybe a very good platform will be creating for such thing. Thank you very much, madam, for sparing your valuable time and sharing your valuable experiences with us. We, on behalf of our postgraduate department and also our HOD, Dr. Rajendra sir, heartily thank you for your wonderful presentation, madam.
Thank
you
sir.
very much.
Once again, I would like to thank Principal Dr. Gajanand Hegde sir and Rajendra sir. And of course, when even I was working in our JMC, was having very good support with them. And you being my senior and even my three madam. So everybody I should thank for this opportunity, because only because of JMC, I started working in the field of this particular topic, cancer. So I always thankful to you all, and also for this opportunity to share my experience. I think it was a very lengthy session. Maybe it is boring also, so to some extent, but there is no other way. That is why I just wanted to share everything here. Thank you very much, and also to my JSS AMC staff and principal. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, madam. The initial part of this particular webinar was a bit facade, because we have started with YouTube this time, and there was a lot of disturbances initially. So we regret for what are the disturbances caused because of our technical issues. You also, madam, and all the participants. And we'll be looking forward to all the participants for coming webinars, and we'll be informing in the next week. Especially, we are taking help of our what I can say, alumni, the expert alumni, and Beena, Dr. Beena is also one of our valuable expert alumni. So once again, I thank you, everybody, especially the speaker also once again, and also all the participants on the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.